Hey, what's up guys? Sloth King here. Today I'm working on my 4th gen Toyota 4Runner. I'm going to be replacing the upper control arms on it. Now I'm replacing it with the 5th gen upper control arms because if you guys remember, I picked up a bunch of suspension components from a 5th gen 4Runner and I threw them on mine. So the only thing that I really need to do now is just swap over those upper control arms because mine are pretty old and the ball joint is a little bit loose on it. I mean, it's not too bad, but since I have it, I want to go ahead and swap it over. This is a direct swap, and if you guys just have the regular 4Runner upper control arms, this guide will help you out as well. So I have it up in the air right now on some jack stands, and let's go ahead and get into what we're going to need. All right, let's go over what we are going to need for today. So I'm going to make my life a lot easier. I'm going to be using my impact. I have a set of impact sockets here. You will need a breaker bar. You will need a 3/8 ratchet set. Well, maybe. It just depends how tight these nuts and bolts are to get into. You will need a trim removal tool. There's this little fender lining that we need to get out of the way. You're gonna need a sledge of some sort, pliers, cutters. I'm using some wobble sockets here. You will see that here later. I recommend grabbing some wrenches. You're mostly just going to need a 19mm wrench to hold the upper bolt for your control arm. You will need a torque wrench, new control arms, and then a ball joint separator. Sometimes these ball joints love to stick on the hub, so having this will help out. You can just rent this at your local auto parts store like I did, or you can just smash it with a hammer until it pops out. I recommend some gloves. I have some impact gloves that you might need, and I think that's it. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Alrighty guys, so we're on the passenger side, and the fender linings that I was actually talking about were these. They used to sit here and they used to cover up this whole area. Mine are broken off, so I guess I'm gonna have to replace these, but pretty much for the removal tool, you would have to pop these clips out from right under here, and then it just comes right out, and then you remove all the clips over here so that way we can access this bolt, and then same thing for this side. So I guess I need to order some new ones and then replace all of these, but this is easy access for me. But yeah, just remove these clips, take the flaps off, and then you can access these bolts all over here. So we're going to pretend that I already took those off. So the next thing we are going to do, we're going to just take off a few small things. The first thing that we want to disconnect is our ABS line right here, or wire I should say. This is just a 10mm bolt. We're going to remove this, get it out of the way. All right, now that is moved, I'm just going to put the bolt just right back in there. All right, the next thing we're going to have to do, we're going to remove this brake line junction bracket point right here. So if yours is rusty, spray some PB Blaster on it like I did. This is going to be a 12mm bolt right here. Moving this will give us access to put an impact or just a regular ratchet on this nut right here so we can remove this whole thing. So let's get this out of the way. Oh boy, I feel like this is gonna be it's gonna give me a fight, huh? That's not good. All right, I might have to resort to a breaker bar just on here. All right, there we go. Now it's cooperating. Before it was just slowly marring the head bolt on there. Sometimes you just need more leverage. All right, I'll go ahead and finish taking this off, and then I'll show you how much we're gonna move out of the way whenever it's done. All right, now that we have that bolt out of there, we can go ahead and just lift up the bracket a little bit, and then we're going to push it back. So how far back? Just until this little hook goes right over the frame, and we will have access to put a socket on here with a ratchet or a wobble socket so that we can use our impact. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we can loosen up our nut right here. This is where our 19mm wrench comes in. We're going to hold the wrench on this side, and then we're going to put our breaker bar, ratchet, or impact gun over on this nut right here, and then we're going to break it loose. If we can get that loose, we can go ahead and remove the nut right here, and then we can separate the ball joint from the hub. All right, this should be a pretty decent angle for you guys. So I'm going to put my socket on here for my impact. I have the wobble, so I can easily put the impact over on this side, move it around, get the angle that I need. And then I'm going to hold the wrench on the right side, and we're just going to loosen it. Sometimes that just does not work. So this is where we'll need to put our breaker bar on just to get some extra leverage and break it loose. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. All right, it looks like it's spinning. Yep. All right, now let me get the impact on there and try to get it off the rest of the way. There we go. Sometimes you just need some extra leverage. All right, so whenever you take this washer off, you're going to notice that it is not flat on both sides. The part that caves inward is going to go in this way. And then if we move our wrench, we can see that the stud or the bolt can move freely now. So it's not seized at all. So now that we know that this will not give us any trouble, we can go ahead and remove this nut here and separate the ball joint. All right, so this doesn't have your typical cotter pin on it. This one you can actually turn and then it'll pull out. See, it's one of those. It actually kind of looks like a bobby pin almost. So we have that out. This is also a 19mm. So we actually have the sway bar link. As you can see, it's in the way. We might have to disconnect this sway bar link, just get out of the way so that way we can put our breaker bar and ratchet on here. We might not need to. Let me see if I can fit my breaker bar on here. See if I can pop it up over. Okay, so that can fit. Now, let me see if I can fit my torque wrench on here. So that way we can torque it down. If we can do that, then we don't need to take off this sway bar link. But if you need to get an impact on here, because if this somehow is like super seized or whatever, yeah, we're gonna have to remove the sway bar end link. All right, so the torque wrench does fit on there. So if this nut can come off pretty easily, we don't have to remove that sway bar end link. So let's see if we can just take this thing off. Oh, that's on there pretty good. Oh yeah. All right, I might have to get my impact on here. All right, let's go ahead and remove the sway bar end link. This one happens to be a 17mm. It is aftermarket. I don't know what the stock one is. I think it might be either 16 or it might be the same. All right, let's get that out of the way. Now let's try to fit our impact on here and take it off. It's just not moving. Let me try the breaker bar again. Let's see if we can try to get it to budge. Wow. This is not wanting to move at all. That is crazy. All right, so this is not coming loose. It is actually starting to round out. So I have to resort to this nut remover set, which this will just grip over the nut, and then it'll just lock it on there pretty much, and then we can go ahead and remove it. It's pretty much like a external extractor tool. So we're going to just pop it on here like that, and then we're gonna have to hammer it on. But before I do that, I wanna make sure that I can fit my breaker bar in the direction that I want to. So right about there should be good. I can take this and then just hammer it on. All right, now let's go ahead and put our breaker bar on here. Try to remove it. Oh my God. Did it work? Nope. It just rounded it out some more. Wow. Before I go any further, let me get some heat on it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and use my torch just to get some heat on it. Be very careful where you point this. All right, that should be good. Let's go ahead and put our extractor tool on it one more time, and then hopefully it will break loose. Watch out, this is going to be very hot, just so you guys know. Hey, there we go. Getting it loose. Oh yeah. Let me go ahead and get my ratchet on there and take it off the rest of the way. Yeah, it worked. Oh my goodness. That was awful, guys. All right, now that it's loose, usually you could remove the extractor tool afterwards because it comes with a punch and everything, but I just want to remove it while it's on here. All right, now that's off. Usually you just take it off while it's on a vise or whatever, but I don't want to go through that trouble, so I'm just going to put my wrench on here. Oh my God, look at that nut. Oh God. It just broke itself to pieces. Poor thing. You guys better make sure that you're buying new hardware if the new control arms do not come with the new nuts. So make sure you have those on hand before you do any of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this, and then when it's done, we can go ahead and use our ball joint separator tool, and then we can move on. All right, the nut is off, and look at this thing. It's just mangled, fell apart. I'm glad I'm replacing it now. Okay, so now we can use our ball joint separator. I actually rented this from AutoZone, and this is a brand new one, so ho 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 ho, am I lucky. And here it is. So it's super simple. I'll show you exactly how it works. This will go right on the stud right here, and then this part will sit on top of the, well, in between the ball joint itself. So let's check it out. So as I was describing before, we're going to loosen this up, right? So that way the arm can swivel as much as it can. This piece will go right in between the ball joint. If it's a tight fit, you might have to just, lightly hammer it in. So now that this arm is lined up on the bottom of the stud right here, we're going to just tighten this bolt right here, and then this will just push up on the stud in the ball joint, and it'll just pop it right out. It's better than just hammering and sitting here with a pickle fork, destroying stuff. All right, so this is actually a 24 millimeter. So we're gonna pop that right on there. I'm just going to use a ratchet, and then we're just going to tighten it. And then we're just going to go slow. You will gradually feel more tension on it, and then this will just boop, pop right out. Watch, it's just gonna violently pop out. This thing must be really stuck on there because it should pop out by now. Oh my God, that was violent. All right, well, it worked. I should have kept the nut on there. I'm an idiot. But there we go, guys. It's off. Woo! Wow. All right, that was pretty violent. So you saw the mistake that I did there. I should have kept the castle nut on the threads of the ball joint, so that way that kind of thing does not happen. I was sitting there. It was a couple minutes. I was just sitting there, trying to get the ball joint separated, and I decided to just tap it with my hammer on the top of the control arm, and then as soon as I hit that hub, boom, it just exploded out. So luckily that it just landed on the top of my foot. It really didn't hurt that bad, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So if you're doing this and it's not going to separate easily, just go ahead and put that castle nut back on, just so that way it doesn't explode out like that. All right, so now the easy part is about to commence. We're just going to take out that bolt, and then we're going to put our new control arm in, and then we can start reinstalling everything and torque the stuff down. All right, so now we just need to go ahead and push this bolt out. Oh, let me get a shot over on this other side. So whenever we're pushing the bolt out, you'll see that that washer will want to stick right there. Just go ahead and push the washer back. You got to hold it with both hands, but all right, here we go. This is better. So we're going to hold the washer, and then we're going to push the bolt through. There's a certain point that the bolt will keep going, but it will get hung up on, there's something right here. I don't really know what it is, but if we just keep spinning it, it'll move past it. I think it's just like a line or whatever, or a clip for a sensor. We're just going to keep pushing the bolts through, and then at some point we can go ahead and just pull this out, and part of the bolt will still be in there. We just need to get the bolt out long enough so that way the control arm can get loose. So I need to move the camera so that way I can remove the control arm. All right, I see what it's hung up on. So if we look over here in the engine bay, we can see that right here is our bolt for the control arm. And then there's like this little line. It's for the AC. See right there? That's what it's hung up on. But if you look right in between the power steering hose reservoir and the bigger AC line, the line is just in a clip. So if you just pop it out, you'll see it move. And then we can go ahead and get our bolt out further. So it was just in a little clip. See, now I have some wiggle room in that line. Right here, this is our AC line. There's a 10mm bolt on, this whole thing is on a bracket. So if we unbolt that, we should be able to get to move this about an inch out of the way, because our bolt is right in between these lines and it's a little stuck. So let me go ahead and remove this bolt real quick. All right, now this should give us some wiggle room to remove the bolt a little bit further. And then I think we can remove our control arm now. All right, let's see if that gives us enough room. Yes, it did. Sweet. So once that drops down, if you can see, the bolt is just right there. Not too bad. So now we can just remove this the rest of the way. There we go. One thing that I am definitely going to do, I'm going to put some anti-seize on this bolt before we reinstall it. So whenever I go ahead and put this in, I will go ahead and start throwing it into the engine bay, line it up, and then I'll put some anti-seize on here. I'll slide the bolt in, put some more anti-seize on it, slide it in, and put some more anti-seize on the rest of the way. Because since all this stuff is in the way, I don't want to get anti-seize all over these lines right down here. So it's just a little bit easier just to like put a little bit on and then slide the bolt in, put a little bit more on, you know, so on and so forth. All right, so the only thing that we need to do now is to reinstall everything. It's literally reverse assembly and then torque everything down to ride height. All right, so for the torquing sequence, this is what I mean about the ride height. So we're going to put our jack right underneath the lower control arm, and we're going to jack this up to about where the wheel would sit at ride height. So it would be right about there. So now we can go ahead and torque this down. So for the top upper control arm bolt, that's going to be 118 foot-pounds. Put the wrench on this side, torque wrench on this side. There we go, torque down. And then now we can get the ball joint torqued down as well. All right, so the ball joint, we will torque that down to 81 foot-pounds. That is done. And we want to make sure that our hole is lined up with our castle nut, which it's almost there. So we're going to go past the 81 just a little bit. Right there. Now we can put our cotter pin in. If you have a new one, you can use the new one. This old one is still actually fine because it's going to go in and it's going to clip around the castle nut right here. There we go. Now that's in place. Now we just need to torque down our end link right here. So this gets torqued to 52 foot-pounds. There we go. All done. Now go ahead and put your ABS bracket right back up here, and then put your brake line bolt back right there, and then you are done. Now you just need to go ahead and do the other side, which I'm going to do off camera, but this is how you do that. And just to note, when you're doing the driver's side, when you're taking off that top long bolt, there's a 10mm bolt right here underneath the battery tray that attaches this loom right here, this low bracket. That is going to be in the way for whenever you're trying to remove that long bolt for the upper control arm. So make sure you just take out this 10mm bolt and then this whole thing will get out of your way, and then you can slide the bolt out. And as soon as you take that out, this will move, and then you can go ahead and take the bolt out. There we go. All right, guys, and that's how you go ahead and replace your upper control arm on your 4th gen Toyota 4Runner. This was a little bit more involved than what I was imagining, but I'm glad I had the tools on hand to do it. So if you need to go ahead and use some heat to take off that ball joint nut, go ahead and do that, but make sure you have another castle nut for the new control arm if it does not come with it. Like if you got the 5th gen ones off of like Facebook Marketplace or whatever, like I did, I had to order those separately, the castle nuts. And yeah, make sure you have like one of those extractor tools like I did, just in case. Everything I used in this video, I'll put in the description below, so that way you guys are totally prepared. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. If you're just replacing the stock control arms, like using the 4th gen ones, same thing. This guide will work the exact same way. If you found the 5th gen ones on the marketplace with like 500 miles on it for super cheap, awesome. You can go ahead and do that as well. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, sweet, I'm glad. And like always, I'll catch you guys on the next ride.